Sterling Connolly Chu here. Welcome to Second Growth Homes. Today we're at my family's mobile dimension sawmill. This is a 2 or 3 blade circular sawmill, mobile dimension, and this is the mill that we cut most of the material for our cabins on. We cut timbers up to 6 by 12 on this mill. I also have a Wood-Mizer LT40 behind me, and with that mill we'll cut 12 by 12 timbers, and we do a lot of yellow cedar on that sawmill over there, which I'll show you another day. So we are building a 20 by 36 A-frame cabin, and today we're going to mill the timbers for the A's. We're milling 4 by 6 by 22 feet. They're actually 23. We cut them a little extra long. So 4 by 6 by 22 are going to be some really long, decent sized timbers, but the 4 by 6 is a fairly manageable size for me, which will be really nice. Last order I had, I'm pretty sure they were 4 by 10s. 4 by 10s, I believe, and that was quite the project. So I got a log truck, small log truck load of about 7 really nice second growth logs here behind me, forklift, and we're gonna load up and start it up. So every time you get back to your mobile dimension mill every morning, the main thing to do is go over it, make sure that there's not any loose bolts anywhere. You got a lot of vibration, a lot of just kind of high-pitched vibration, and it really likes to rattle stuff loose. Well, if a part gets loose in this mill, it could get thrown by the blade and be really dangerous. So got over it pretty well. Just check everything out. Check the gas tank. Just filled it, so well. And it's nice. It's an air-cooled engine, Volkswagen engine. So all we have to do before starting it is check the oil, which is really, really easy. Let's come on over and we'll go ahead and just start the mill up and let it warm up a little bit. So we look over the whole mill, make sure everything's good, make sure nothing's loose, make sure everything's in place. Then we check the oil. All I do to check the oil is I just look through this hole right here, pick the stick up. Perfect. I change the oil in this very often. Connect the battery. We have got a nice pile of milling to do. We have 5 buildings to mill. First one is this whole A-frame cabin, and 2 20 by 30 cabins after that, and 2 garages. So this mill is going to be getting the workout. I am always interested in getting a new mill, but it's kind of tough because it's hard to beat the mobile dimension. I could get a newer mobile dimension, and I want a new one. But it's not really going to do anything differently for me. It's not going to really make me a ton of money, and as long as this mill's working, I am happy with it. I'm kind of interested in getting a big swing blade mill. I like the idea of being able to make 12 by 12s with just the big circular blade, but that'll be another day. So pull out the choke. We already checked the oil. I'm going to check your gas line, make sure it's not leaking. That would be really, really, really bad. Sawmills like to burn up. And I always pump the gas a couple times. I start at about half throttle. Here we go. Needless to say, that's the dangerous part of the mill. You really don't want to get in that area. It scares me to see my hand out there. Don't go on this side of the mill. And I'll touch that, more on that in a few minutes. That's a long log, 23 feet. It's kind of impressive. So I made one mistake with my setup here. I wasn't really thinking, and I got the small end of the log at this end of the mill. You generally always want the big end of the log at this end of the mill. So I'm just gonna try it. It's gonna work. And if I don't like it, I'll figure out how to spin them around. So. I got the log on the mill safely. Be really careful. Now it's time for us to slam these log clamps into place. These log clamps are kind of simple and they work pretty good. So they do two things. They either slam hard against the log if you put your hand on top of this, and if you hold it up, it uses this spring you can see here. So the first thing you do is hold it down, slam it into the log, and just get it jammed in there as tight as you can. Then you hold this up, and that will use the spring to compress it. Go ahead and show you one more. Now it'd sure be a lot nicer to have the big end at that end, but we'll see what happens. So again, just slam this in there, keeping your hand on top of it. Clamp it. And then you hold it up. Use the spring. I usually just put two on. You know, you got all these spots, but I've always found that it's kind of surprising how well the log just sits there. You just kind of need to get that stuff tight, and I've never really had one move. The only time I've had problems is if I'm cutting a giant old growth tree. You'll cut everything off of that side of the tree, and then out here you still got this huge chunk of timber, and it tries to roll the slab out of the clamps. But with these logs, they just kind of sit there. So, all right, let's go over here, and we're gonna make our first boards of 2025. Oh, it's so exciting. Okay, 4 by 6 by 20. So what I do is, the first cuts, you're going to be cutting through the bark and the outside of the log, which is the most likely spot for you to get dirt that's going to dull your blade. So I try to not sharpen my saw for these first passes. I want to get these first passes out of the way. I want to get the first cut of bark off, and then when I'm ready to make my final timber, that's when I want to check if it's sharp, and then I want to cut the main timbers in my order while the saw is just absolutely sharp, and try to cut the bark and the other stuff when it's a little bit more dull. Okay. When I first get back to the mill and the chainsaws and everything, it just seems so scary. Everything is sharp and steel. Kind of gnarly. So we're going to move the mill over like this. I'm going to line the mill up with the log. So right now, the log is here. The mill's a little bit out of alignment. So I'm just going to move this end of the mill over till we're parallel with the log. Easy. There we go. Okay. Everything's just a little sticky if you're not running. So for this log, we're going to take a 2-inch pass across the bottom. So that means if we drop the mill all the way to the bottom, we're going to come up 2.5 inches to make a 2-by pass across the bottom. We're going to come up 6 inches to make 4x6s, 6 inches again to make 4x6s. That's 2 passes of 4x6 out of this tree. Then whatever we get off the top is what we get. Hopefully a couple 2x4s. So let's go ahead and you'll see me set the height. We're going to go up from the bottom 2 inches plus a 1/2 inch. You always have to add the extra 1/2 inch to make up for the thickness of the blade. So if you measured up 2 inches, your board would come out more like 1.5 inches or 1 5/8. Can't forget the kerf with sawmilling, it's really important. So 2.5, then we're gonna come up 6.5. So 8.5, 9. From 9, we're gonna come up 6.5 again. So 15.5. So I'm gonna go ahead and set this baby at 15.5 and see where that puts us. So this is my gauge for how high the mill is. I'm just gonna double check myself because it's my first log of the year. So we're gonna come up 2.5 plus 6 is to 8.5 plus 1/2 is 9. 9 plus 6 is 15 plus the half is 15.5. And then, so that's gonna be the top of our 2 passes of 4x6s. And then whenever we get up here, we'll just decide kind of on the fly here. So we'll start coming down. It's kind of nice being at the small end for this. It's nice for this, but it'll be harder when we're actually milling. Okay. So that's pretty good. That'll work. We're gonna get some kind of big pieces off the top. So I think I'll come up an extra 2 inches. So from 15.5. We're going to come up. There we go. So we'll see how that does. That's going to kind of, it's just going to kind of skim the top of the log. So the first pass might not be very productive for this log. I could probably just say come down a little farther and take it, but let's just try it. We need some stickers, and hopefully we can get some stickers off the top here. So, let's go. So you can see it's just skimming the top. Because the log gets bigger at the other end, we'll just try this. I could probably go ahead and come down 2.5 right now. It's okay, let's let the mill run, let it warm up. So far, so good, eh? Well, that was just perfect. So we'll get a nice row of 1x2s across the top for stickers. And we could actually get a row like a 2x4 or 2x6 with a flat, but we need the stickers, so we're just gonna make them. So here we go. We're gonna zip that mill back and forth, make a bunch of stickers across the top, drop down, and start milling here today. we've got our first pass across the top of the log and the mill is just cutting great. Got a nice pile of 1x2 stickers that we'll insert between the beams to let them dry out. Now we're gonna go down and drop 6.5 inches. And we're gonna make our first 4x6 timbers here today. 4x6. Everything looks good. The log's pretty wet, so they're gonna be heavy. But let's just go ahead and do it. So we're gonna drop 6 inches right now. The whole mill's gonna go down 6 inches plus the extra 1/2 inch for the kerf here. So from 15.5 to 9. Let's give her a try. Time. I thought my cut was good, but when I looked at it, it actually came over this way a little bit more. So we're going to make one adjustment, we'll cut that piece off, and then we'll make our first 4x6. foot 4x6 Sitka spruce. Our first pass of those 4x6s just came out absolutely gorgeous. They're beautiful. 23 foot 4x6. Perfect Sitka spruce. We're going down another 6.5 inches. Take another pass. So now we're going from 9 inches down to 2.5. Okay. cut great. I didn't even need to sharpen it up. Isn't that amazing? It sat here for almost 6 months. Sliced all those timbers. So I got 6 beautiful 4x6 by 23s, 23 feet. We need 28 of them. So 5 logs. I got 6, 7 logs on the mills or on the truck. So that should be about perfect. Whew. 23 feet 4x6 green are pretty heavy to handle by yourself. That was impressive. Sheesh! Well, they are just absolutely gorgeous. Beautiful. It's funny when I go to size the stuff for this cabin, I'm always like, oh, is a 4x6 going to be big enough? And these are so strong, like, when you pick it up, you can just tell. It's like there's no way that, even if it was a full 23 feet, that those things would break. There's just no way. They're so strong. Whew, that is a job. Well, we got 28 of these long ones to make, 14 20-footers to make, and a ton of lumber to mill. So if you like seeing this mobile dimension mill going down back and forth down the track, and if you'd like to come out with me and complete this big lumber order we're doing, please click those like and subscribe buttons below my face, and you can come back to YouTube, search for Second Growth Homes. You can come along with us that way. I'm going to get cleaned up, get another log on the mill, get all set up, and we'll do it again. I'm really super pleased with the quality. They're really coming out nice and accurate. Perfect here today.